The auction hall on Nexus Station buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in their designated sections, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and electronic beeps. At the center of the massive circular chamber, a single spotlight illuminated an empty platform where the most controversial auction item in galactic history would soon be displayed. Zara Chen adjusted her position in the human delegation's booth, her fingers drumming against the polished armrest of her chair. At 23, she was the youngest person ever to attend a Galactic Trade Consortium auction, but her father's vast fortune had bought her a seat at this table. The other humans in attendance, seasoned diplomats and trade representatives, had tried to dissuade her from coming, but Zara had insisted. She had her reasons she kept close to her chest. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all classifications," announced the auctioneer, a tall, insectoid creature whose mandibles clicked in rhythm with its words. "We present today's final item, specimen 7749, designated as the last albino wolf of Earth." A collective hush fell over the chamber as the platform rose from below. On it stood a creature that took Zara's breath away. The wolf was magnificent, its pure white fur seeming to glow under the harsh auction lights. Its eyes, a striking pale blue, surveyed the crowd with an intelligence that made several alien delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. The animal stood nearly 4 feet at the shoulder, larger than any wolf Zara had ever seen in documentaries about extinct Earth species. The auctioneer's voice cut through the silence. "This specimen represents the last of its kind, recovered from a stasis pod discovered in the ruins of the Yellowstone Genetic Preserve on Earth. Carbon dating confirms it to be over 300 years old, from before the Great Exodus when humans abandoned their homeworld. The bidding will start at 10 million galactic credits." Immediately, paddles shot up across the chamber. The Zephyrian Empire's representative, a crystalline being that sparkled in the light, signaled 15 million. The Krythak Collective, known for their genetic experiments, countered with 20 million. Each bid sent ripples of excitement through the crowd. Zara watched the wolf throughout the bidding war. Unlike the other specimens she had seen auctioned today, rare minerals, ancient artifacts, even living creatures, this wolf seemed aware of what was happening. Its ears twitched at each new bid, and its eyes moved from section to section as if it understood the proceedings. When its gaze fell on her, Zara felt a connection that she couldn't explain. The bidding had reached 60 million credits, far beyond what most governments could afford for a single specimen. Only 3 bidders remained: the Zephyrian Empire, the Krythak Collective, and, surprisingly, the Vorthan Republic, a militaristic species known for their brutal efficiency in warfare. 75 million, declared the Vorthan representative, General Krax, his scaled hide gleaming under the lights. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Everyone knew what the Vorthans did with rare biological specimens: they studied them, dissected them, and used whatever they learned to create new weapons. Zara's jaw clenched. She had done her research before coming here. The Vorthans had a particular interest in Earth fauna, believing that the legendary toughness of humans might be traced back to their evolution alongside such predators. If they got their hands on this wolf, it would end up on a laboratory table within hours of the auction's end. The Zephyrian bid 80 million, but their representative's crystalline form had begun to dim, a sure sign they were reaching their limit. The Krythak delegate had fallen silent, apparently having reached their maximum funding allocation. 85 million to the Vorthan Republic, the auctioneer announced. "Do I hear 90 million? The chamber fell silent. Even for the wealthy species in attendance, 90 million credits for a single specimen was astronomical. General Krax's lipless mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Going once." The auctioneer began. Zara's hand shot up. 100 million credits. The silence that followed was deafening. Every being in the chamber turned to stare at the human section, where a young woman in a simple black dress had just doubled the previous record for a single auction item. The other human delegates looked at her in horror, but Zara kept her eyes fixed on the wolf. General Krax's head snapped toward her, his yellow eyes blazing with fury. "The human child does not understand what she bids for," he hissed, his translator rendering his words in perfect standard Galactic. "This is a matter of scientific importance, not a pet purchase for the spoiled offspring of merchants." Zara stood, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber. 120 million credits. She paused, letting the numbers sink in.
And, I understand perfectly what I'm bidding for, General. The question is, do you?
The Vorthan's scaled fists clenched, but he said nothing.
At 120 million credits, even his government's resources were stretched to the breaking point.
The chamber waited in tense silence as he consulted with his advisors through rapid clicks and hisses.
Finally, General Krax stood. The Vorthan Republic withdraws from this auction. The word seemed to cause him physical pain, and his glare at Zara promised that this insult would not be forgotten.
Sold, the auctioneer declared, its mandibles clicking excitedly. To the human delegation for 120 million galactic credits. As the platform began to lower, taking the wolf out of sight, Zara felt a mixture of triumph and terror. She had just spent more money than some planets' annual budgets, but she had saved the wolf from becoming a Vorthan experiment. The hard part, however, was just beginning.
Ambassador Reeves, the head of the human delegation, grabbed Zara's arm as she moved to leave.
"Do you have any idea what you've just done?" he whispered urgently.
"That money, where is it coming from?" "My trust fund," Zara replied calmly. "It's my money to spend as I choose."
"Your father will disown you for this foolishness," another delegate protested. 120 million credits for an extinct animal.
Zara shrugged. "Maybe.
But, at least it won't end up being dissected by the Vorthans." She pulled free of the ambassador's grip and headed for the exit. "I need to arrange transportation for my purchase." As she walked through the corridor leading away from the auction chamber, Zara could hear the buzz of conversation behind her. Word of the astronomical purchase was already spreading throughout the station. By now, every major news network in the galaxy would be picking up the story.
"Human billionaire's daughter spends fortune on extinct wolf" would be trending on feeds across 1,000 worlds by the end of the day. But Zara had bigger concerns than public relations.
She had purchased the wolf on impulse, driven by a gut feeling that it needed to be protected. Now she had to figure out what to do with a 300-year-old predator that was supposedly the last of its kind. The holding facility was located in the lower levels of Nexus Station, where the artificial gravity was lighter and the air recycling systems created a constant humming background noise. Zara had been given a temporary access pass that would allow her to visit her purchase while the transfer paperwork was processed. The wolf was kept in a specialized containment unit designed for dangerous biological specimens. The chamber was large enough for the animal to move around, with environmental controls that maintained Earth-standard atmosphere and temperature.
Through the transparent aluminum viewing window, Zara could see the wolf lying on a raised platform, its white fur stark against the dark metal flooring.
When she approached the window, the wolf's head lifted, and those pale blue eyes fixed on her once again. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the barrier that separated them.
Zara found herself wondering what the creature was thinking. Did it understand that its fate had just changed? Did it know it had been saved from the Vorthans?
"Remarkable, isn't it?" a voice said behind her.
Zara turned to find Dr. Elena Vasquez, the xenobiologist who had been cataloging specimens for the auction house.
The woman was in her 50s, with graying hair and the weathered look of someone who had spent decades studying alien life forms.
"Dr. Vasquez," Zara acknowledged. "I didn't expect to see you here."
"I wanted to observe how our friend here reacted to meeting its new owner," the scientist explained, gesturing toward the containment unit. "In all my years of studying Earth fauna, I've never seen anything quite like this specimen."
"What do you mean?" Dr. Vasquez moved closer to the viewing window.
"Look at its neural activity readings," she said, pointing to a display panel beside the window.
"See those patterns? They're far more complex than what we'd expect from a typical canine brain.
This creature shows signs of enhanced cognitive function that shouldn't exist in a naturally evolved Earth predator."
Zara studied the readouts, though she couldn't interpret the complex medical data as easily as the doctor could. Enhanced how? Problem-solving ability, pattern recognition, even what appears to be rudimentary language comprehension.
"When I played recordings of human speech yesterday, its brain activity spiked in regions associated with linguistic processing." Dr. Vasquez paused, her expression troubled.
"Miss Chen, I don't think this is just any wolf that happened to be preserved in stasis.
I think this animal was the subject of genetic modification before the Great Exodus.
The implications of that statement hit Zara like a physical blow.
If the wolf had been genetically enhanced, it meant that humanity had been conducting advanced biological experiments 3 centuries ago, long before they were supposed to have achieved that level of scientific sophistication.
It would rewrite the accepted timeline of human technological development.
More importantly, it meant that the Vorthons hadn't been interested in the wolf simply because it was an Earth predator. They had somehow known about its enhanced nature and wanted to study those enhancements.
Have you shared this information with anyone else? Zara asked quietly. Dr. Vasquez shook her head. I only confirmed my suspicions this morning. The auction house contracted me to provide basic biological assessments, not detailed genetic analysis.
They wouldn't have paid for that level of investigation. And you won't be sharing it with them now, Zara said.
It wasn't a question.
That depends, the scientist replied carefully.
What exactly do you plan to do with this creature?
Zara looked back at the wolf, which had risen to its feet and was now standing at the front of its enclosure, watching their conversation with obvious interest. The animal's posture was alert but not aggressive, and Zara had the unsettling feeling that it understood more of their discussion than should be possible. I'm going to take it home, she said finally. Give it the life it deserves instead of letting it become a laboratory specimen. And where exactly is home for someone who can afford to spend 120 million credits on a whim?
Zara smiled for the first time since the auction ended. New Terra Colony, in the Centauri system. My father owns about half the planet, including some very large private reserves where an enhanced wolf might find plenty of room to run.
Dr. Vasquez nodded slowly. That might actually work. But, Miss Chen, you need to understand that bringing this creature into civilized space is going to cause problems. The Galactic Species Protection Act requires all genetically modified organisms to be registered and monitored. If the authorities discover what this wolf really is,
then I'll make sure they don't discover it, Zara said firmly. At least not until I understand what we're really dealing with. The two women were interrupted by the arrival of a heavily armed security detail wearing the insignia of the Galactic Trade Consortium.
Their leader, a tall humanoid with blue-tinted skin, stepped forward with official-looking documents in hand.
Miss Chen, he said in accented Standard Galactic, I am Captain Boss of GTC Security. We need to discuss the transportation arrangements for your purchase. Zara accepted the documents and quickly scanned them.
Standard legal boilerplate about liability, insurance, and handling protocols.
Nothing that seemed immediately problematic.
The paperwork appears to be in order, she said.
When can the specimen be transferred to my ship?
Immediately, if you prefer, Captain Boss replied.
However, I must inform you that there have been several inquiries about your purchase from various governmental entities.
The Vorthon Republic has formally requested that the specimen be made available for scientific study before its final transfer.
And what was your response to that request? That the specimen is now private property and any research access would require the owner's permission.
Captain Voss paused. They were displeased with this answer.
Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. Captain, what kind of inquiries are we talking about? Scientific institutions? Government research departments?
Military intelligence, the security captain admitted. Both Vorthon and Krythak representatives have contacted the station administrator directly. They've also filed formal requests with the Galactic Council for a review of the sale.
Zara felt a chill run down her spine. If the galactic governments were getting involved, it meant they suspected the wolf was more than just a rare biological specimen.
Somehow, they knew about its enhanced nature, or at least suspected it. How long do I have before any review proceedings begin? She asked.
Unknown.
However, I would recommend completing the transfer and departure as quickly as possible.
Once the specimen leaves Nexus Station, it falls under the jurisdiction of whatever system you're traveling to. Zara made her decision. Prepare the transfer immediately. I want to be off this station within the hour.
As Captain Voss and his team began making arrangements, Dr. Vasquez pulled Zara aside.
Miss Chen, I want to come with you.
Excuse me? I need to study this creature properly, the scientist explained. If it's truly a genetically enhanced specimen from pre-Exodus Earth, it represents one of the most significant biological discoveries in centuries. I can't let it disappear into a private collection without understanding what it is.
Zara considered the request.
Having a qualified xenobiologist aboard would certainly be helpful, especially if the wolf's enhanced nature created unexpected challenges. But it also meant bringing another person into what was rapidly becoming a very dangerous secret.
What about your contract with the auction house? Completed as of this morning, Dr. Vasquez replied. I'm technically unemployed as of 6 hours ago. And you'd be willing to relocate to New Terra Colony indefinitely? For the chance to study a genetically enhanced Earth predator? Miss Chen, I'd relocate to the edge of the galaxy. Zara nodded. Then, gather your equipment. We leave as soon as the wolf is secured aboard my ship.
As they waited for the transfer to begin, Zara found herself staring at the wolf once again. The creature had settled back onto its platform, but its eyes remained fixed on the viewing window. There was something almost knowing in that gaze, as if the animal understood that its life was about to change dramatically once again.
The loading process was more complex than Zara had anticipated.
The wolf's containment unit had to be specially modified for ship transport, with additional safety systems and environmental controls. The creature remained calm throughout the procedure, watching the technicians work with apparent curiosity rather than fear. Interesting, Dr. Vasquez observed as they supervised the loading.
Most wild animals would be highly agitated by all this activity and the change in environment.
This one seems almost cooperative.
Maybe it knows we're trying to help it, Zara suggested.
Or maybe it's smart enough to recognize that cooperation is in its best interests, the scientist replied grimly. Once the containment unit was secured in the cargo hold of Zara's private ship, the Meridian, they began final departure preparations. Zara's pilot, Captain Marcus Webb, was a former military officer who had been flying for the Chen family for over a decade. He was professional, discreet, and, most importantly, unquestioningly loyal to Zara and her father. Miss Chen, Captain Webb reported as they prepared to undock, we've received 3 separate requests from station authority to delay our departure pending official inspections.
And our response?
That all required inspections were completed during the loading process and that we have a filed flight plan that puts us outside their jurisdiction within the hour.
Zara smiled grimly. Then, let's not keep the void waiting.
As the Meridian pulled away from Nexus Station and began its journey toward the hyperspace jump point, Zara stood in the cargo hold observing their passenger. The wolf had adjusted quickly to the ship's artificial gravity and was now pacing slowly around its containment unit. When it noticed her watching, it approached the viewing window and placed one large paw against the transparent surface.
What are you? Zara whispered. And why are so many people willing to kill for you?
The wolf tilted its head slightly, almost as if it had heard her question.
For a moment, its pale blue eyes seemed to hold depths of intelligence that made Zara's breath catch.
Then, it moved away from the window and settled down in the center of its containment unit, closing its eyes as if preparing to sleep. Dr. Vasquez joined her in the cargo hold, carrying a portable scanner and several data tablets.
I've been reviewing the genetic samples I took during the auction house examination, she said without preamble. Miss Chen, you need to see this.
The data on the tablet showed complex genetic sequences and modification markers that meant nothing to Zara.
In simple terms, Doctor? This wolf isn't just enhanced, Dr. Vasquez said quietly. It's been designed.
Someone took a standard Earth wolf genome and systematically improved it. Enhanced intelligence, improved physical capabilities, extended lifespan, even modifications that would allow it to survive in non-Earth environments.
Pre-Exodus humans were that advanced?
Not according to any historical records, the scientist replied. Which means either our understanding of human technological development is completely wrong, or this creature represents technology from a source that's been deliberately hidden from galactic history.
Zara felt pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to fall into place. That's why everyone wants it.
Not because it's the last wolf from Earth, but because it represents lost technology. Technology that could revolutionize genetic enhancement, extend lifespans, maybe even allow species to adapt to environments they were never meant to survive in.
Dr. Vasquez paused. Miss Chen, if the wrong people get hold of this information.
They won't, Zara said firmly.
Not if I have anything to say about it.
As the Meridian jumped to hyperspace and began its journey toward New Terra Colony, Zara made herself a promise. Whatever secrets the wolf carried, whatever technology it represented, she would protect both the creature and the knowledge it embodied. Humanity had already lost one homeworld and most of its natural heritage. She wouldn't let them lose this as well. Behind them, Nexus Station continued its eternal orbit around the gas giant Calvanus Prime, but word of the astronomical auction and the mysterious human girl who had outbid galactic governments was already spreading through the communication networks. By the time the Meridian reached its destination, half the galaxy would know about Zara Chen and her expensive purchase.
And, in the depths of space, other ships were already changing course, following the hyperspace trail left by the Meridian.
The wolf might have been saved from the auction block, but its freedom was far from guaranteed. The Real chase was just beginning. Story Part 2. 3 days into their journey to New Terra Colony, Zara Chen's comfortable assumptions about her expensive purchase were shattered by a sound she never expected to hear aboard her ship. The wolf was howling, and it wasn't alone. She rushed to the cargo hold where the containment unit hummed quietly in the artificial light. The wolf stood at the front of its enclosure, its massive head thrown back as it released a long, haunting call into the recycled air of the ship. But what made Zara's blood run cold was the response, a distant answering howl that seemed to echo through the ship's hull from somewhere in the void beyond. Dr. Vasquez arrived moments later, her scanner in hand and her face pale with excitement.
Miss Chen, you need to see this, she said urgently, holding up her device. The wolf isn't just howling randomly. It's transmitting a complex acoustic pattern, and something out there is responding.
That's impossible, Zara protested.
We're in hyperspace. No sound can travel through. Not sound, the scientist interrupted. These howls are triggering some kind of quantum resonance effect in the ship's hull. The wolf is somehow using its voice to create a subspace communication signal.
Captain Webb's voice crackled over the intercom system.
Miss Chen, please report to the bridge immediately. We have a situation.
The bridge of the Meridian was in controlled chaos when Zara arrived. Warning lights flashed across multiple displays, and the hyperspace navigation system was showing anomalies that shouldn't have been possible. Webb stood at the central command console, his weathered face grim with concern.
Captain, what's happening?
3 ships dropped out of hyperspace and began paralleling our course approximately 1 hour ago, Webb reported. They're maintaining perfect formation with us despite the fact that we're traveling faster than light. According to every physics textbook in the galaxy, that should be impossible. Zara moved to the tactical display, where 3 blips showed the pursuing vessels maintaining an impossible precise distance from the Meridian.
Can you identify them?
That's the problem, Webb said.
Their energy signatures don't match anything in our databases.
These ships are using technology I've never seen before. Dr. Vasquez had followed Zara to the bridge, and now she activated her portable scanner. The device immediately began displaying readings that made her eyes widen in shock. The quantum resonance effects are getting stronger, she announced.
Whatever communication system the wolf is using, it's not just reaching those ships, it's guiding them to us. You're saying the wolf is calling them?
Zara asked incredulously. I'm saying the wolf appears to be in direct contact with whoever is flying those vessels, the scientist replied. And, based on these readings, the technology they're using is far more advanced than anything currently available to galactic civilization. A new alarm began sounding on the bridge, and Webb's hands flew over his controls. We've got company dropping out of hyperspace directly ahead of us, he announced.
4 more vessels, larger than the ones following us.
The main view screen shimmered as the ship's sensors focused on the new arrivals. What Zara saw made her breath catch in her throat. The ships weren't like anything she had ever seen before, sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to shift and flow like living creatures. Their hulls appeared to be made of the same white material as the wolf's fur, and they moved through space with a grace that suggested biological rather than mechanical propulsion.
Captain Webb, Zara said quietly, take us out of hyperspace. Now, Miss Chen, if we drop to normal space here, we'll be sitting ducks.
We're still 2 days out from the nearest inhabited system.
Do it anyway.
I have a feeling our passengers want to have a conversation. The Meridian dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder that ran through the ship's entire structure. Around them, the 7 mysterious vessels immediately followed suit, arranging themselves in a perfect circle around the human ship. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, their white hulls gleaming like polished bone in the light of distant stars.
Incoming transmission, Webb reported. It's unusual.
The signal is being received by multiple ship systems simultaneously, including some that aren't even designed for communication.
Put it through.
The bridge speakers crackled to life, but, instead of words, they heard a sound that made everyone present freeze in recognition. It was a howl, not quite the same as the wolf's call, but similar enough that the relationship was unmistakable. The sound seemed to resonate through the ship's hull and into their bones. Then, abruptly, the howling stopped and was replaced by a voice speaking perfect standard Galactic.
Human vessel Meridian, this is Fleet Commander Lyra of the Fenrir Collective. We understand you have one of our people aboard your ship. Zara stepped forward to the communication console. This is Zara Chen, owner of the Meridian. I'm not sure what you mean by one of your people. The enhanced one you call a wolf, the voice replied, and now Zara could hear subtle differences in pronunciation that suggested the speaker wasn't entirely comfortable with standard Galactic.
He was taken from us long ago, when our world burned. We have been searching for him across the galaxy for 300 of your years. Dr. Vasquez grabbed Zara's arm.
Miss Chen, she whispered urgently, the genetic markers I found, enhanced intelligence, modified physiology, extended lifespan, what if they weren't just random improvements? What if they were designed to allow the wolf to survive in space?
You're suggesting,
Zara began,
that we're not dealing with a genetically modified Earth animal, the scientist finished. We're dealing with a member of an intelligent species that evolved from Earth wolves after humans abandoned the planet.
The implications hit Zara like a physical blow.
If Dr. Vasquez was right, then, the creature in their cargo hold wasn't a pet or a scientific specimen. It was a sentient being who had been held in captivity and auctioned off like property. And, somewhere out there, its people had been searching for it for 3 centuries. Fleet Commander Lyra, Zara said into the communication system, I need to understand what's happening here. The creature aboard my ship was purchased legally at a Galactic Trade Consortium auction. I had no idea it was anything other than an extinct Earth predator.
The Galactic Trade Consortium, the voice replied, and now there was an edge of anger that made the words sound almost like a growl.
They have much to answer for. Our people do not recognize their authority to sell our kind into slavery.
If I had known, Zara said quickly, I never would have participated in the auction.
But, I need proof that what you're saying is true. You shall have it.
Prepare to receive a boarding party.
We will retrieve our brother and provide you with the evidence you require.
Warning klaxons immediately began sounding on the bridge.
Miss Chen, Captain Webb said urgently, I'm reading massive energy buildups on all 7 ships. Whatever they're preparing to do, our shields won't stop it.
Belay that alarm, Captain, Zara ordered.
Fleet Commander Lyra, I'll allow a small party aboard to verify your claims, but I want guarantees that my crew and ship won't be harmed. You have protected our brother from the Vorthans and their torture chambers, the voice replied.
For this, we owe you a debt. No harm will come to you or your people.
One of the white ships began to move closer to the Meridian, and, as it approached, Zara could see that it was even more organic looking than she had first realized. The hull seemed to pulse with a faint bioluminescent glow, and what she had taken for weapon ports now looked more like sensory organs. Docking Bay 2 is being prepared for your arrival, Webb announced over the communication system.
20 minutes later, Zara stood in the docking bay with Dr. Vasquez and a security team, watching as an airlock cycled open to admit their visitors.
What emerged were 3 beings that immediately confirmed Dr. Vasquez's theory about the wolf's true nature. They were humanoid in basic shape but clearly evolved from lupin stock. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with digitigrade legs, elongated faces that retained wolfish features, and hands that ended in retractable claws. Their fur was various shades of white and gray, and their eyes held the same intelligent gleam that Zara had seen in the wolf's gaze. They wore form-fitting garments that seemed to be grown rather than manufactured, and they moved with a fluid grace that spoke of perfect environmental adaptation. The lead figure stepped forward and inclined its head in what was clearly meant as a respectful greeting. "I am Pack Leader Fenris," it said, and Zara was surprised to hear that its voice was the same one they had heard over the communication system.
"We thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Pack Leader," Zara replied carefully, "I'm Zara Chen. Before we proceed, I need to understand exactly what happened 300 years ago." Fenris exchanged glances with its companions before responding. "When your people abandoned Earth during what you call the Great Exodus, they left behind more than just empty cities and dying ecosystems. Some of us wolves, as you call our ancestors, had been altered by human scientists as part of an experimental program to create enhanced companion species."
"Enhanced how?" Dr. Vasquez asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "Intelligence, longevity, adaptability to different environments," Fenris replied. "The humans who created us intended for us to serve as companions during the colonization of new worlds. But the Exodus happened too quickly, and most of the experimental subjects were abandoned on Earth."
"Most of them?" Zara pressed.
"A few were taken aboard evacuation ships as personal pets or research specimens," Fenris explained, its voice carrying centuries of pain. "My brother Ash was among them. His ship was damaged during the journey to the Centauri colonies and was believed lost with all hands. We learned only recently that it had crashed on an uninhabited world, where he remained in emergency stasis until scavengers found the wreckage." Zara felt sick as she realized what had happened. The auction house said they found him in a stasis pod from a Yellowstone facility, but they were lying. The scavengers who found him sold him to private collectors, who eventually sold him to the auction house, Fenris continued. "By the time we located him, he had already been put up for sale as a rare specimen."
"How did you find him?"
Dr. Vasquez asked. "All of our kind carry quantum-linked neural implants," Fenris explained, touching a spot behind its ear where Zara could see a faint scar. "They allow us to maintain contact across vast distances. When Ash awakened from stasis, his signal reached our colony ships scattered throughout the galaxy."
"Colony ships?"
"We are a nomadic people now," Fenris said sadly. "Earth became uninhabitable even for our enhanced physiology within decades of the human departure. We built ships and took to space, searching for worlds where we could establish new homes. But we never stopped looking for those who were lost during the Exodus."
Zara made her decision. "Pack Leader Fenris, I want to return your brother to you immediately. But first, I need to ask, is he truly sentient? Can he understand what's been happening to him?"
"Ash possesses the same intelligence as any of our kind," Fenris replied solemnly.
"He has been aware and suffering throughout his captivity.
The fact that he has maintained his sanity for so long speaks to the strength of his spirit." "Then, we need to get him out of that containment unit right now," Zara said firmly.
Dr. Vasquez, can we safely disable the containment field?"
"The environmental controls will need to be adjusted gradually," the scientist replied, "but, yes, it can be done." As they made their way to the cargo hold, Fenris explained more about the Fenrir Collective and their centuries-long search for their lost people. There were nearly 50,000 of them now, scattered across a dozen colony ships, each one searching different sectors of the galaxy for signs of their missing brothers and sisters.
"How many others are still out there?" Zara asked as they walked. "We estimate several hundred were taken during the Exodus," Fenris replied.
"Some died in captivity over the centuries, but we have located 17 others in various forms of bondage.
Ash will be the 18th to be returned to his people."
The cargo hold was filled with tension when they arrived. The wolf Ash was standing at the front of his containment unit, his body rigid with anticipation. When his enhanced senses detected the presence of his own kind, he threw back his head and released a howl of joy that resonated through the ship's hull. Fenris immediately responded with a howl of his own, and the two other Fenrir representatives joined in. The sound was hauntingly beautiful, a song of reunion and celebration that brought tears to Zara's eyes. Dr. Vasquez worked quickly to shut down the containment field while adjusting the cargo hold's atmosphere to something more suitable for the Fenrir physiology. As the energy barrier flickered and died, Ash bounded from his prison and threw himself at Fenris, the two creatures embracing in a display of emotion that left no doubt about their relationship. For several minutes, the four Fenrir communicated in rapid bursts of their own language, a complex mixture of vocalizations, body language, and what appeared to be some form of telepathic connection.
Finally, Fenris turned back to Zara.
Ash thanks you for protecting him from the Vorthons, the pack leader said.
He also wishes to share information that he believes will be important to your people. What kind of information?
Ash stepped forward, and, when he spoke, his voice was deeper and more resonant than Fenris's, but perfectly clear in standard Galactic. During my time in captivity, I learned much about the galaxy's current political situation. The Vorthons were not bidding for me randomly, they have been systematically acquiring enhanced biological specimens from Earth for over 50 years.
Zara felt her blood turn cold. For what purpose? They are attempting to reverse engineer the enhancement process, Ash continued.
Their goal is to create an army of enhanced soldiers that would give them a decisive advantage in any galactic conflict.
They have already begun testing on captured human prisoners from the outer colonies. That's impossible, Zara protested. Experimentation on sentient beings is prohibited by the Galactic Accords.
The Vorthons care little for galactic law, Fenris said grimly.
We have been tracking their activities for decades.
They maintain secret research facilities in uninhabited systems where they conduct their illegal experiments. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her scanner, her face pale. Miss Chen, if what they're saying is true, then, the Vorthons aren't just trying to create enhanced soldiers, they're trying to recreate the technology that created the Fenrir in the first place.
But, why is that significant?
Because, Ash said quietly, the process that enhanced us was not developed by humans alone. We were created through a collaboration between human scientists and another species, one that the galaxy believes to be extinct. The silence that followed was deafening. Zara felt pieces of an enormous puzzle clicking into place, but the picture they formed was more terrifying than anything she had imagined.
What species? She whispered. The progenitors, Fenris replied. The first intelligent species to achieve interstellar travel.
They seeded the galaxy with the genetic templates that eventually gave rise to most of the current civilizations. When they disappeared 2 million years ago, they left behind only ruins and legends. But not all of them disappeared, Ash continued.
A small population survived in hidden colonies on the edge of the galaxy.
When humans achieved spaceflight and began exploring beyond their solar system, the progenitors made contact. The enhancement technology that created us was a gift, part of a larger plan to prepare humanity for the challenges they would face as a spacefaring species. Dr. Vasquez's scanner was beeping frantically now, and she stared at its display in shock.
The quantum signatures, she breathed. The technology I've been detecting, it's not just advanced, it's progenitor technology. Where are these surviving progenitors now? Zara asked.
Gone again, Fenris said sadly.
When the Great Exodus began, they vanished just as their ancestors had millennia before.
We believe they are still out there somewhere, watching and waiting, but they have not made contact with any species in over 300 years.
Ash moved closer to Zara, his pale blue eyes intense with urgency. Miss Chen, the Vorthons cannot be allowed to succeed in their research. If they unlock the secrets of progenitor enhancement technology, they will become unstoppable. Every free species in the galaxy will fall under their domination. But what can we do? Zara protested.
Even if we expose their illegal activities, it will take years for the Galactic Council to act, and, by then, it will be too late, Fenris agreed.
But there is another way. The Fenrir Collective has been preparing for this possibility for decades.
We have located several of the Vorthon research facilities and have been gathering evidence of their crimes. Evidence that proves they've been conducting illegal experiments on sentient beings, Ash added.
Evidence that would force immediate intervention by the Galactic Defense Force. Zara felt a chill of premonition. You want me to help you attack Vorthon military installations?
We want you to help us save thousands of innocent beings who are currently being tortured in Vorthon laboratories, Fenris corrected. And we want to prevent a galactic war that would cost millions of lives.
Dr. Vasquez looked up from her scanner again. Miss Chen, there's something else you should know. My scans of Ash's neural implant have revealed something interesting. The quantum communication system the Fenrir use, it's not just for talking to each other. What do you mean?
It's a beacon, the scientist explained. Every Fenrir in the galaxy is connected to a quantum network that spans the entire galactic disk. If they wanted to, they could coordinate simultaneous actions across thousands of star systems.
Ash nodded solemnly. The collective has been waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves to galactic civilization.
We have ships, technology, and, most importantly, we have detailed knowledge of progenitor science that could advance every species in the galaxy by centuries.
But, first, Fenris added, we must deal with the Vorthons.
They represent a clear and present danger not just to us, but to every free people in the galaxy. Zara looked around the cargo hold at the assembled beings, human, Fenrir, and, somewhere in the background, the legacy of a mysterious species that had vanished from the galaxy long before any current civilization had achieved sentience. The weight of the decision she was about to make pressed down on her like a physical force.
If I agree to help you, she said slowly, what exactly would be required?
Your ship and crew would serve as an independent witness to Vorthon war crimes, Fenris explained. You would document everything we discover and transmit that evidence to the Galactic Council, the major news networks, and every government in civilized space.
And, in return? The Fenrir Collective would formally reveal itself to galactic civilization, Ash said.
We would share our technology, our knowledge, and our resources to help build a better future for all species. Zara closed her eyes and thought about everything that had led to this moment. 3 days ago, she had been a wealthy young woman looking for a way to make a difference in the galaxy. Now she was being offered the chance to help expose one of the greatest threats to galactic freedom while simultaneously introducing a new species that could revolutionize interstellar civilization. When she opened her eyes, her decision was clear.
Pack Leader Fenris, you have my ship and my crew. Tell me what we need to do.
The Fenrir leader smiled, revealing teeth that were definitely designed for more than just eating vegetables.
First, we need to get you and your people to safety.
The Vorthons will not take kindly to losing Ash, and they will come for you with everything they have.
Where do you suggest we go? To the Fenrir fleet, Fenris replied.
It's time you saw what your people's legacy has become. As the Meridian prepared to join the Fenrir vessels for the journey to their hidden fleet, Zara realized that her expensive purchase at the Nexus Station auction had bought her much more than just an exotic pet. She had unknowingly acquired a key to one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries, and now she was about to unlock doors that had been closed for 300 years. The real adventure was just beginning, and the stakes were higher than anyone could have imagined. The Fenrir fleet was unlike anything Zara had ever imagined possible. Hidden in the shadow of a rogue planet drifting through the void between star systems, nearly 50 massive vessels hung in perfect formation, their bioluminescent hulls creating a constellation of living light against the absolute darkness of space. Each ship was unique, grown rather than built, their organic curves and flowing lines suggesting creatures that had adapted to swim through the cosmic ocean rather than crude mechanical constructs forcing their way through vacuum. The largest vessels stretched for kilometers, their surfaces covered with what appeared to be forests and lakes, entire ecosystems contained within their living hulls. By the void, Captain Webb whispered as the Meridian approached the fleet.
How long have they been out here?
Fenris, who had remained aboard to guide them to the rendezvous point, moved to stand beside Zara at the observation window. This particular gathering has been in place for only 6 months, he explained. But, our people have been building ships like these for over 2 centuries. Each vessel is home to between 5 and 50,000 Fenrir, depending on its size and function. Dr. Vasquez was practically vibrating with excitement as her scanners detected energy signatures that shouldn't have existed according to current scientific understanding. The power sources alone represent a breakthrough in physics, she murmured, studying her displays.
How are they generating this much energy without any detectable fuel consumption?
Progenitor technology, Ash replied from his position near the communication console, where he had been coordinating with the fleet. Our ships derive power directly from quantum fluctuations in space itself. They could operate continuously for millions of years without any external fuel source.
And the hulls? Zara asked, fascinated despite the danger their situation represented. They're actually alive, aren't they?
modified organisms based on space-dwelling creatures, the progenitors discovered in the galactic core, Fenris confirmed. They grow, heal themselves when damaged, and can adapt to different environments as needed. In many ways, our ships are more like partners than tools. The Meridian was guided to docking facilities on one of the medium-sized vessels, a graceful creature nearly 2 kilometers long that Ash identified as the Howling Star. As they disembarked, Zara found herself walking through corridors that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, their walls warm to the touch and slightly resilient underfoot. "The ship responds to our presence," Fenris explained, noticing her amazement. "It knows we're here and adjusts its internal environment to keep us comfortable. Temperature, humidity, even the air mixture is customized for each individual aboard." They were met by what was clearly the ship's command staff, a group of Fenrir wearing more elaborate versions of the bio-grown clothing that seemed to be standard among their people. Their leader was an elderly female whose white fur was streaked with silver and whose eyes held depths of wisdom that spoke of centuries of experience. "Alpha Kestra," Fenris said respectfully, "I present Zara Chen and her companions, who protected Brother Ash from Vorthan capture." The elderly Fenrir stepped forward and placed her hands on Zara's shoulders in a gesture that felt both formal and deeply personal. "Child of Earth," she said in a voice like wine through ancient forests, "your actions have prevented a great evil and returned one of our lost children to his people. The debt we owe you cannot be measured." "Alpha Kestra," Zara replied carefully, "Pack leader Fenris has told me about the Vorthan threat and their illegal experiments. If there's a way I can help stop them, I want to do whatever I can." The Alpha's expression grew grave. "What we ask of you will not be easy or safe," she warned. "The Vorthans have powerful allies and vast resources. Exposing their crimes will make you enemies of one of the galaxy's most dangerous military powers." "I understand the risks," Zara said firmly. "But if they're really torturing sentient beings and developing weapons that could threaten every free species in the galaxy, then someone has to stop them." Alpha Kestra nodded approvingly. "Then, come. There are things you must see before we proceed." They were led deeper into the ship, past chambers filled with Fenrir of all ages engaged in activities that ranged from child-rearing to advanced scientific research. Zara noticed that despite their obviously high level of technology, the Fenrir society seemed to have retained much of the pack structure and social bonding that characterized their ancestral species. "We have maintained our essential nature while embracing the gifts the progenitors gave us," Alpha Kestra explained when Zara commented on this. "We believe that technology should serve life, not replace it." Their destination was a vast chamber at the heart of the ship where holographic displays showed star charts, tactical information, and what appeared to be real-time surveillance data from dozens of different star systems. At the center of it all was a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with hundreds of pulsing lights indicating various points of interest. "This is our intelligence center," the Alpha explained. "For over a century, we have been gathering information about the activities of every major government and organization in civilized space. What we have discovered about the Vorthans is more disturbing than even we initially suspected." Ash moved to one of the control interfaces and began manipulating the holographic displays. "The Vorthan enhancement program began 60 years ago when they discovered ancient ruins on a dead world in their home system," he explained. "The ruins contained progenitor technology, including incomplete genetic modification techniques." The display changed to show detailed schematics of Vorthan research facilities, their locations marked throughout Vorthan space and beyond. "They have 17 active laboratories where they conduct enhancement experiments," Ash continued. "Most of their test subjects are prisoners of war, refugees, and others who have disappeared without official notice." Dr. Vasquez studied the displayed information with growing horror. "The scale of this operation," she breathed. "They must have conducted experiments on thousands of sentient beings over the decades. More than 12,000 confirmed victims," Alpha Kestra said grimly. "And their work is approaching a breakthrough that would give them the power to enhance entire armies of soldiers." Zara felt sick as the implications became clear. An enhanced Vorthan military could conquer the entire galaxy. "Which is why we have decided to act now," the Alpha continued. "We have spent decades gathering evidence, but the Galactic Council moves too slowly for legal proceedings to stop them in time. Direct action is required." Fenris activated another display showing detailed tactical plans.
We have identified 3 key facilities that must be neutralized simultaneously. The first contains the primary research data and the most advanced enhancement technology. The second holds over 3,000 prisoners who are currently being used as test subjects. The third is their main military application center where they are preparing to begin mass enhancement of Vorthan soldiers. You're planning a military strike, Zara realized. We are planning a rescue operation, Alpha Kestra corrected. Our goal is to liberate the prisoners, secure evidence of Vorthan war crimes, and destroy their ability to continue these illegal experiments. But we need independent witnesses to ensure that our actions are seen as legitimate intervention rather than unprovoked aggression. Captain Webb, who had been listening quietly until now, stepped forward. Alpha Kestra, with respect, you're asking us to participate in attacks on sovereign Vorthan territory. Even if their activities are illegal, this could be seen as an act of war. Captain, Ash said quietly, the Vorthans have already committed acts of war against every free species in the galaxy. We are simply ensuring that their crimes do not go unpunished. Dr. Vasquez was studying the tactical displays with the eye of someone who had spent years in dangerous research environments. The facilities are heavily defended, she observed. How do you plan to get inside without triggering a massive military response? Progenitor stealth technology, Fenris replied simply. Our ships can approach undetected by any current sensor system. We can be inside their perimeter and beginning the liberation before they know we're there. And once you've secured the evidence and freed the prisoners? Zara asked. We transmit everything to every major news network and government in the galaxy simultaneously, Alpha Kestra explained. The evidence will be so overwhelming and so widely distributed that even Vorthan influence will not be able to suppress it. Zara studied the tactical plans for a long moment, weighing the risks against the potential benefits. If the Fenrir were right about the Vorthan threat, then failing to act could result in the enslavement of the entire galaxy. But if they were wrong, or if the operation failed, she could find herself branded as a terrorist and hunted by every military force in civilized space. If I agree to help, she said finally, I want guarantees about the safety of the prisoners you're planning to liberate. I won't be party to an operation that results in massive casualties among the people we're trying to save. Agreed, Alpha Kestra said immediately. Every Fenrir ship is equipped with medical facilities that can handle massive numbers of trauma patients. The prisoners' safety is our highest priority. And I want Dr. Vasquez and Captain Webb to be given the choice of participating or being taken to safety, Zara continued. This is my decision to make, not theirs. Both of her companions started to protest, but Zara held up a hand to silence them. This is going to be dangerous in ways we can't even imagine, she said firmly. I won't force anyone else to take these risks. Miss Chen, Captain Webb said quietly, I've been flying for your family for 10 years. I'm not about to abandon you now, regardless of how crazy this operation sounds. Dr. Vasquez nodded agreement. Besides, she added with a grim smile, this is the discovery of a lifetime. I'm not missing the chance to document first contact between humanity and a species we helped create. Alpha Kestra smiled approvingly. Then, it is decided. We launch in 6 hours, when the target systems are in optimal positions for simultaneous strikes. The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation and briefing. Zara and her crew were assigned liaison officers who explained the technical details of the operation and provided them with recording equipment that could document everything they witnessed. The Meridian was integrated into the Fenrir fleet's communication network and equipped with quantum transmitters that could broadcast to the entire galaxy simultaneously. As they prepared to depart, Ash approached Zara privately. Miss Chen, he said quietly, there is something else you should know before we proceed. What is it? The progenitor technology that enhanced my people, it didn't just modify our biology. It also gave us certain abilities that we have not shared with galactic civilization. Zara felt a chill of premonition. What kind of abilities? We can sense the emotional states of other beings, influence their thoughts to a limited degree, and, in some cases, establish direct mental communication with non-Fenrir individuals. Ash paused, studying her reaction. I have been able to sense your thoughts and feelings since the moment we met. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. You've been reading my mind?
Not reading, Ash corrected quickly.
Sensing.
I can detect your emotional state, your general intentions, but not your specific thoughts. And only because the stress of our situation has made your mental defenses particularly permeable.
Are there others aboard my ship who have this ability? Fenris and myself, yes.
But we have used our abilities only to ensure that you and your crew pose no threat to our people. We would never violate your privacy without cause.
Zara took a deep breath, trying to process this revelation. Is there anything else about your people that I should know before we begin this operation?
Ash hesitated. We are not the only enhanced species created through progenitor technology, he said finally. There are others scattered throughout the galaxy, some still in hiding, some believed extinct, some serving as slaves or specimens in research facilities like the ones we're about to attack.
How many others? We estimate at least a dozen species, possibly more. The Vorthans have been systematically hunting them for decades, capturing them for experimentation or elimination.
Ash's expression grew grim. If we fail today, many of them will be lost forever. As the Fenrir fleet prepared to move out of hiding and begin their strike against the Vorthan research facilities, Zara stood on the bridge of the Meridian watching the massive bioships arrange themselves into attack formation. Each vessel moved with the fluid grace of a living creature, their bioluminescent hulls creating patterns that somehow conveyed both beauty and menace.
Fleet reports ready for departure, Captain Webb announced. All ships are synchronized for simultaneous arrival at target systems.
Zara activated the ship's recording systems and began what she knew would be either a historic documentation of justice being served or evidence in her own war crimes trial. This is Zara Chen aboard the independent vessel Meridian, recording first-hand observations of Operation Fenrir Dawn. She spoke clearly into the recorder. The data's Galactic Standard 2387.156, and we are about to witness what may be the most significant military action in modern galactic history. The fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect unison. Their destination is a series of secret Vorthan research facilities where thousands of innocent beings were being subjected to illegal genetic experiments. As the stars streaked past the Meridian's viewports, Zara found herself thinking about the chain of events that had brought her to this moment. 3 days ago, she had been a wealthy young woman looking for meaning in her life. Now she was part of a coalition between humanity and an enhanced species that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The wolf she had purchased for 120 million credits had turned out to be the key to exposing one of the greatest threats to galactic freedom, and possibly the catalyst for the most significant interstellar alliance in recorded history. But the real test was still ahead. The Fenrir fleet was about to attack heavily defended Vorthan military installations in an operation that would either liberate thousands of prisoners and expose horrific war crimes, or trigger a galactic conflict that could cost millions of lives. As the fleet approached their targets and began final preparations for the assault, Zara realized that her expensive purchase at the Nexus Station auction had bought much more than just an exotic animal. She had unknowingly acquired a piece of galactic history, and now she was about to help write its next chapter. The liberation of the Vorthan research facilities began at exactly the same moment across 3 different star systems. Fenrir ships dropped out of hyperspace with their stealth systems engaged, invisible to Vorthan sensors as they approached their targets. The Meridian, attached to the strike force heading for the main research facility in the Calvera system, hung back from the combat zone but close enough to record everything that happened. The attack itself was unlike anything in recorded military history. The Fenrir ships didn't rely on conventional weapons. Instead, they used focused gravitational beams that could slice through the strongest armor like it was tissue paper. Defensive systems that should have been impregnable were neutralized in minutes, and the enhanced reflexes and intelligence of the Fenrir warriors allowed them to infiltrate the facilities with minimal casualties. But it was what they found inside that truly shocked the galaxy. The Vorthan research facilities contained evidence of systematic torture, genetic experimentation on unwilling subjects, and the attempted creation of enhanced soldiers through techniques that had a mortality rate of over 90%. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species were found in various stages of the enhancement process, many of them barely alive after years of brutal experimentation. The liberation took less than 6 hours, but the evidence gathered during those 6 hours changed everything. Real-time transmissions from all three facilities were broadcast simultaneously to every major news network and government in civilized space, providing undeniable proof of Vorthan war crimes on a scale that shocked even the most hardened observers. The rescued prisoners included members of several species that galactic civilization had believed to be extinct, enhanced beings who had been captured and subjected to experiments designed to reverse engineer their abilities. Among them were representatives of the luminous ones, crystalline beings who could manipulate light and energy, the shadestalkers, shadow dwellers who could become partially immaterial, and, most shocking of all, 3 survivors of the original progenitor species who had been held in secret for over 50 years. As news of the liberation spread throughout the galaxy, the Vorthan Republic found itself facing immediate sanctions from the Galactic Council and demands for the extradition of government officials responsible for the illegal research programs. Several Vorthan allies publicly condemned the experiments and withdrew their support from the Republic, leaving it diplomatically isolated. But the most significant outcome of Operation Fenrir Dawn was the formal introduction of the Fenrir Collective to galactic civilization. Alpha Kestra addressed the Galactic Council in person, revealing the existence of nearly 50,000 enhanced beings who had been secretly developing advanced technology while searching for their lost people throughout the galaxy. The Fenrir offered to share their progenitor-derived technology with all peaceful species, proposing an era of unprecedented scientific advancement and cooperation. Their bioships, quantum communication networks, and enhanced genetic techniques promised solutions to problems that had plagued galactic civilization for centuries. 6 months after the operation, Zara found herself standing in the same auction hall on Nexus Station where her adventure had begun. But, this time, she wasn't there to buy anything, she was there to witness the ceremonial destruction of the facility's specimen holding areas and the conversion of the station into a memorial for victims of illegal biological trafficking. Ash stood beside her, no longer confined in a containment unit but wearing the elaborate bio-grown garments that marked him as a pack leader in Fenrir society. The transformation in his appearance was remarkable. The intelligent but animal-like creature she had first seen had revealed himself to be a sophisticated being whose presence commanded respect from representatives of dozens of species. "Do you ever regret spending 120 million credits on an impulse purchase?" he asked with amusement in his voice. Zara smiled, watching as the auction platform was dismantled by workers representing the newly formed Galactic Ethics Enforcement Agency. "Best investment I ever made," she replied. "Though I have to admit, when I bid on you, I was expecting to get a pet, not a partner in the most significant military operation in modern galactic history." "The galaxy is a strange place," Ash observed. "Sometimes the most important events begin with the smallest actions." Dr. Vasquez approached them, carrying a data pad that contained her preliminary analysis of the progenitor survivors who had been rescued from Vorthan captivity. "Miss Chen, you need to see this," she said urgently. "The progenitors have been awake and aware throughout their captivity. They have detailed knowledge of current galactic politics and technology, and they want to share it with the allied species." "What kind of knowledge?" Zara asked. "The location of other progenitor colonies that might still be active," the scientist replied. "Advanced technologies that make what the Fenrir have shared look primitive. And, most importantly, information about a threat that's been developing in the galactic core for the past million years." Ash's expression grew serious. "What kind of threat?" "They call it the darkness between stars," Dr. Vasquez said quietly. "A form of hostile artificial intelligence that consumes entire civilizations and converts their resources into more of itself. According to the progenitors, it's been spreading slowly outward from the galactic core for eons, and it's getting close to reaching the populated regions of the galaxy." Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's environmental controls. "How close?" "The progenitors estimate we have maybe a century before it reaches the first inhabited systems," Dr. Vasquez replied. "But, with the right preparation and the technologies they're offering to share, the Galactic Alliance might be able to stop it." "Might be?" "They've been fighting this thing for millions of years," the scientist explained. "They've learned how to survive it, how to hide from it, but they've never been able to defeat it. That's why they disappeared from galactic civilization. They've been preparing for this final confrontation." Ash moved closer to the viewing window that had once displayed biological specimens for sale to the highest bidder. "So my rescue from this place was just the beginning," he mused. "The real challenge is still ahead." "It seems that way," Zara agreed. But, at least now we know what we're facing, and we have allies we didn't know existed. The Fenrir, the enhanced species, the surviving progenitors, together, they might be enough to face whatever's coming from the galactic core. As they watched the last of the auction equipment being removed from the station, Zara reflected on how much her life had changed since that day when she had impulsively bid 120 million credits for an exotic pet. She had gained a friend, helped expose one of the greatest war crimes in galactic history, and played a role in forging an alliance that might be the only thing standing between civilization and an ancient threat that could destroy everything. The wolf she had purchased had turned out to be much more than she had bargained for. He was a representative of humanity's legacy among the stars, a key to technologies that could revolutionize galactic society, and, now, a partner in preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. As the newly formed Galactic Defense Alliance began its preparations for the coming conflict with the darkness between stars, Zara Chen knew that her real adventure was just beginning. The 120 million credits she had spent on an auction had bought her much more than an exotic pet. They had purchased a front-row seat to the most important events in galactic history. The billionaire's daughter who had bought an albino wolf on impulse had become one of the most influential figures in galactic politics, and the galaxy itself had gained hope in the face of an ancient threat. Sometimes, the most important journeys begin with a single step, and sometimes that step costs 120 million credits at an alien auction house. But, as Ash had said, the galaxy was a strange place, and the most important events often began with the smallest actions. Zara's expensive impulse purchase had set in motion a chain of events that would echo through galactic history for centuries to come.